All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to round two for the week. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. You are now watching Permission to Exist. I am your host, Permission to Exist, also known as PTE, and I'm very, very excited about tonight's show. Before we get started, as always, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to those of you who support the channel, be that Cash App, Patreon, super chatting, or simply liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel and channel memberships. Although, be advised, probably the end of this year, I'm going to shut down Patreon and I'm probably also going to shut down the channel memberships just for reasons. I haven't made a full decision yet, but I will let you know if I do decide to close those two things down. If nothing else, I'm probably going to shut down the Patreon, but we'll see. We'll get there. We will cross that bridge when we get there. So, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. So, this show was, and hello to everybody in the chat. Good to see you. This show was actually inspired by the most recent live stream that I did on the channel called Why Dealing with Narcissists Will Sink Your Ship. And the overall takeaway from that live stream, among other things, is that narcissists often, among other things, will try to take you down with them. So they want you to experience the same suffering that they do, typically as a result of their actions. They want you to go down with their ship, basically. And there were other things discussed in that live stream. It's actually really interesting and kind of funny. So I highly recommend checking that out if you get an opportunity. But that's what this stream was inspired by. So towards the end of that live stream, I mentioned how, in the spirit of that whole, if something happens to me, I want it to happen to you, I mentioned an Instagram post that I saw where people were basically saying, the question was posed, why do people park next to each other when there's this big, wide open parking lot and they'll see a car like off in the cut and they'll go park right next to that car that's clearly off by itself? And there were tons of different answers that were really shocking. But one of the answers that came out of all the comments that I read was, well, if something happens to my car, I want it to happen to your car too. Which, wow, we're going to get there. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to show you the video that actually posed the question. And then I went and I pulled a bunch of the comments and we're going to examine each one because they all fall into different categories. So I picked out the major themes and I put them in order of not quite as bad to full-blown demon. Okay. So I'm getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome everyone to the show. Let's take a look first at the video. And if you are interested, I did link this video that's on Instagram. I linked it in the description box so you can go watch it for yourself. So I'm going to play this video first. I don't know how well the sound is going to come out. So I'll play it twice just in case. And I just want to say fair use for instructional purposes, critique, education, and all that fun stuff. Fair use. Okay. So let's jump right into it. This is the video called When Someone Parks Next to You. Okay.
Now I know somebody did not park next to me, bro. All these parking spots, and she chose this one. Can't even eat my food in peace. There's no way. Look at all them parking spots. Ain't no way. Move.
All right, one more time.
Now I know somebody did not park next to me, bro. All these parking spots, and she chose this one. Can't even eat my food in peace. There's no way. Look at all them parking spots. Ain't no way. Move!
Okay. All right. So, first, I want to talk about why this is so funny to me in particular. It's funny to me because probably about 2 or 3 weeks before I saw this video on Instagram, the same thing had happened to me. And I text my cousin, essentially asking him the same question. I said, now, why would she park right here? Because what I like to do on my lunch breaks is I like to get my food, and there is a park nearby where I work. And this park has this massive parking lot. It's huge. It's not small. It's not tiny. Parking is not limited. It's big. I chose it for a reason. I chose it because it's big. So I'm parked off like in the corneriest of corners you could possibly think of, right? Eating my food, listening to my music. I got the windows rolled down, enjoying the warmth of the sunshine and the fresh air. I'm having a great old time over there by myself. Next thing I know, this lady comes and just pulls right next to me. And I need to make it clear that I wasn't parked near any kind of entrance. I wasn't near any like building that had like a door or like a business or anything. Literally the corneriest of corners that you can picture. And I chose it for a reason. She came and parked right next to me, and I couldn't believe it. I took a picture of her, and I took a picture of the parking lot, and I sent it to my cousin, and I said, now, cousin, this big old parking lot. And she came and posted up right next to me. Why, cousin? Why? And we just kind of went back and forth about it. So I eventually moved because it just made me so uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing? Like that, it makes me uncomfortable. So that's the context. And I want to make sure I set that context because for what we're about to discuss, we're not talking about shopping centers. We're not talking about places where parking is limited. We're not even talking about like restaurants, like you go park at a restaurant and someone parks next to you. We're not talking about that. I kind of want to make very clear what we're talking about here. We're talking about situations like this. So if you'll take a look at your screen, what you see there is a massive parking lot that's pretty much empty except for two cars. So this would be me. Oh, you can't see my mouse. Well, if you look in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, that would pretty much be me. All right. I'm over here by the median. I'm by the grass. I'm minding my own business. Okay. And the car that I'm talking about came and basically parked right next to me. Now, the second car in this photo that's in the middle, I think they did it correctly. You pull into a big empty lot, they chose, it's pretty far away. We're not making eye contact with each other. We're not invading each other's personal space. I think they did it right. But this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about situations where parking is limited. We're not talking about a busy shopping mall, a busy shopping center, a restaurant, a venue where, hey, if you see a parking space, you got to take it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like a Walmart parking lot that's massive, like massive, and you literally have parked like deep in the back where there's nobody and somebody comes and pulls in right next to you. That's what we're talking about, okay? And I need to set that context for the rest of our discussion here. So let me pull up the presentation that I made for you because we're going to get really deep into this because one of the biggest takeaways I want you to have from this show is that narcissists do everything for a reason, even if you don't know what that reason is. They do it for a reason. And sometimes their reason is very, very twisted. So I was actually really grateful for this post because it gave us some insight into the minds of people who are not well. Okay. It gave us some insight into the mind of the narc. And I'm grateful for that. So I've broken this down into several categories and we're going to go in order. The first category are people who just can't drive. The second category are people who are needy and clingy. The third category are people who are seeking safety of themselves. The fourth category, people who are seeking safety of their property, meaning their car. The fifth category is the I can do whatever I want category. The sixth category is if it happens to me, it's happening to you. And then our final category are imps and demons. And we'll get there. You'll understand. The chat says, I'm not certain why this is important unless it's about narky sensitivity issues. Some of these people are smoking and doing other things they need cover for. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your comment. I'm going to make it make sense in a minute. You'll see. Because ultimately, what it boils down to is this: it's an invasion of personal space, number one. It's weird, number two. But here's the most important part: people are telling you it's making them uncomfortable, but you don't care. You're going to do it anyway. And then we're going to look at some of the reasons they gave for why they choose to do it anyway, even though you've told them it makes you uncomfortable. And that is where the narcissists, that's where the narcissism comes in. The fact that they're going to do it anyway, even though they know it makes you uncomfortable. So let's take a look. Yeah, chat says narcs can't stand to be isolated. Oh, you have no idea. Let's take a look. So our first category are people who simply can't drive. And remember, I put these categories in order of not so bad to as bad as it can possibly get. You just can't drive is on the upper end of things. So let's take a look. First comment says, I need another car to go off of to make sure I'm parking correctly. So, what this person is basically saying is, I will come pull in next to you in a massive empty parking lot because I can't drive. So, I need your car as a guide to pull in to an empty space. But again, when you're in a situation like this, tell me why that would matter. Just pull into the lower space and then pull forward, honey. It's not that hard. That's why they have mirrors. That's why you can actually look down at the ground to see, am I in the lines? A lot of people will sometimes get out of their car to check and see if they park straight. And then when they see they haven't, they get back in the car, they readjust and get it handled. So why would you need another car? Why would you need this car in the upper right-hand corner in order to park straight? You see what I'm saying? But this is the reason they gave. I need another car to go off of to make sure I'm parking correctly. Well, thanks. Thanks for using me to make yourself feel safe. Let's take a look at another example in the can't drive category. This person said, LOL, I actually told someone to park somewhere else, and she literally told me she couldn't park without other cars parked to guide her. I still wasn't having it. So once again, now, was this person in the right for telling them to park somewhere else? Probably not, because it's a public space. However, the fact that the response was, I need other cars to help me park. Sweetheart, what you need is your license revoked. You need your license revoked because you need other cars to help you park. Well, that still doesn't give you the right to violate personal space. And I feel like this is very interesting because I feel like this probably applies in other areas as well. Like they need other people to help them make decisions. They need other people to know what to do. So they almost use you as bumpers. When you're bowling, usually for the kids, they'll put down lane bumpers, those big round, like rubber or plastic tubes that they put in the gutters. So the kids, when they throw the ball down the lane, it won't go into the gutter. It has no choice but to hit the pins. Usually used for beginning bowlers, so they learn how to bowl. They're using you as a bumper, basically. I'm not your bumper. I don't consent to being your bumper. Do you understand? The chat says, right, because what do they do when the car next to them is crooked? Exactly. And therein lies one of the issues of relying on other people to help you be correct. Because if they're crooked, so you're going to park crooked too, since you're using their car as a guide. And probably because then when something happened, you could be like, well, the car next to me was crooked, so I parked crooked. No personal initiative, no personal accountability, no personal sense of direction. They have to use other people to guide them. Oh, but there's more in the can't drive category. So let's take a look. It says, when I was younger, other cars just helped me park. For some reason, I felt more comfortable parking with another car as a visual compared to looking at the white park lines. I felt like it was harder to just use the lines for some reason. And that is challenging for beginner drivers. But I do believe that almost everyone commenting on this post are full blown adults. And people who are typically guilty of parking right next to someone in a big empty parking lot are full blown adults. Right. The chat says, for real, you shouldn't be driving if you need to park next to someone to make sure you're parked right. I agree 100%. Yes, it's a kind of laziness. Absolutely. And I agree 100%. And you know, it worries me also because it makes me think, well, this is all too funny to me. So I'm going to try to suppress my laughter throughout this live stream, but I'm really tickled. Okay. It makes me wonder when we're driving down the street, are you having to use other cars to make driving decisions? Probably. Probably. So if the car in front of you goes, you just go. You don't look around, you don't make sure it's safe to proceed. You're not looking in your mirrors. You're just using the cars around you to determine what to do next. You have no active participation in it. You're just being guided by the herd. Now, on that thought, I want to share with you something one of my coworkers said to me. And it really shed a lot of light on her as a person, but she also gave me a lot of insight into why there are so many bad drivers on the road. We were talking, this is an aside, we were talking about whatever. And she said to me, she said, "Oh, I never look in my rear view mirrors." And I said, "What? Why?" She said, "Because nothing important is going on behind me." I'm like, "Sweetheart, I was like, oh my God," because she's older than me. She's at least older than me by at least 15 years, I would estimate. Anywhere between 15, maybe 12 to 15 years older than me. She's older than me. And she told me nothing important is going on behind her. So she doesn't use her rear view mirror. She just always looks straight. And I wanted to say, "Oh, you're one of the idiots that I have to zoom around every single day." But I didn't. I held my tongue. Y'all would have been proud. I held my tongue. I didn't say that. I thought it. But I'm like, wow, you're really dumb. You're really dumb. And on top of that, you're older than me. So you should have more driving experience than me. You should have more driving knowledge just archived in your brain. But you, at your age, don't believe your rear view mirrors are important when you're driving. She probably does get rear ended a lot. Okay. That was an aside. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I want y'all to know because I think it's important that you know there are people on the road who don't believe looking behind them ever is important. They don't think anything important is going on behind them. They think all the action is in front of them. So, you know how else that could translate? Somebody's riding their bicycle on the sidewalk down the street or on the sidewalk, but going in the same direction as you. And if you don't see them behind you, you're going to make a right turn right in front of them and cut them off. Now, are they supposed to stop at driveways and get off their bike and walk on foot across the intersection? Yes, because they're supposed to be paying attention also. But we also know that they're probably not. And if you get in an accident, the car always has a greater responsibility than the pedestrian, always. So you don't see the bicyclist coming up coming up behind you because you don't ever look behind you. You turn right, cut them off. Now you cause an accident. Don't get me started. I'm very passionate about driving. Very passionate about driving. Let's continue though, because we're just getting warmed up here. All right. So we're still in the you just can't drive category. This person said, "We do this because we use other vehicles as a guide to park. LOL. We can't see the lines most times." And again, we must keep in mind what we're talking about here. We're talking about big, empty parking lots. Big and empty, not small, not restricted, not limited parking. Big, empty parking lots is what we're talking about. And they're telling us that they have to come park right next to you up in this upper right-hand corner because they can't see the lines. Well, then, sweetheart, you don't need to be on the road at all. Your driving privileges need to be revoked at 100% because you can't see, and that's a problem. All right? So that's the first category. The first category is kind of annoying, but not anywhere near as serious as we're getting ready to get into. So now, remember the question that was posed in the original video was, why do people do this? Meaning, why do they come park next to you in a big empty parking lot when you're clearly sitting over there by yourself? The next category is needy and clingy. So let's take a look at the needy and clingy category. This person said straight up, we don't want to be alone. We don't want to be alone. So you see a car, you see somebody in it, in this place that I assume is public, but also not somewhere you frequent. It's like not at your school or something, like you're not at the college or something, or work for that matter. You're in a big open public space. You see somebody sitting alone in their car and you honestly think that it's a good idea to go park next to them because you don't want to be alone. Well, that's probably why they do it. Chat says you should add those that park so close to you that you can't get in your car. You can't get in your car because they don't know how to park without your car. So that's why there's only 3 inches between their door and yours, because they just barely made it. And they're not going to straighten up because they don't even trust their parking job to begin with. So they figure it's better to inconvenience you than for them to not be able to park, is what I'm pretty much gathering from this. It's easier for me to make you uncomfortable and inconvenience you than it is for me to learn how to park, which is something that can be taught. Hello, somebody. Chat says those people are prime pickings for getting adult napped. As I was putting this show together, I said to myself, well, now I see why people get snatched all the time. Because you're out here doing stuff like this, parking next to vehicles with people in them because you don't want to be alone. And here is the underlying narcissism in that. You don't want to be alone. But what if I do? So you don't care that I want to be alone. It doesn't matter to you that I want to be alone. All that matters to you is that you don't want to be alone. So you come and you wedge your car right next to mine in a very obscure area of the parking lot because it makes you feel comfortable and it makes you feel safe. But what if it doesn't make me feel safe? You see, is it starting to become more clear and make more sense? I agree. The chat says being close to a stranger in a big, empty, dark parking lot is way worse than being alone. I agree. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone through a drive-through, got some food, and went, like, let's say the parking was kind of congested, right? So there's not a lot of options. So I'll go and I'll park and then notice somebody is in the car next to me. I will always, every single time, put my car in reverse, back out, and just go find somewhere else to park and eat. Because I just, number one, like, we can see each other. It's very weird. This is not a drive-through. Excuse me. This is not a drive-in. We are not at a drive-in movie theater, honey. Like, it's weird. So when I notice someone's right next to me, I'll just back out and go somewhere else. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know somebody was in there. Now, if the car is empty and I don't have a whole lot of other options, I'll go ahead and park there, eat my food, then leave. But if someone is already there, in my mind, they've already kind of claimed that spot. So I'm like, okay, let me go find somewhere else. And I do. It works out every time. It's beautiful. It really is. But let's keep going. We're still in the needy and clingy category. Says, we want to be lonely with you. Did I flag you down? Do you see a flare? Do you see a sign on the back of my car that says, hello, everyone, I'm lonely. Please come keep me company. Do you see any of that? What about me sitting over here in my car by myself? Number one, makes you think I'm lonely. And number two, makes me think I want the company of a complete stranger. You see what I'm saying? We want to be lonely with you. Well, who told you I was lonely? How do you know I'm not over here talking to my boyfriend who's also at work? But I'm on my lunch break, maybe he's on his lunch break or whatever, and we're just talking to each other. What if I called my parents? What if I called a friend? You know what I mean? Why are you automatically assuming I'm lonely just because I'm by myself? You're lonely, not me, but you're making that decision, that assessment and that judgment for me and coming to keep me company. Like we want to be lonely with you. You weren't invited, honey. If I want you over here, I'll flag you down. Trust me. Let's look at another one. This one says, I like people. I try to be near people. No mystery here. And I really wonder if they understand how incredibly odd and creepy that behavior is. We're the chat says lonely with you. This is starting to scare me. Yeah. This one creeps me out even more than that one though. I like people. I try to be near people. No mystery here. Well, here's the thing. If you like people and you want to be near people, go to a food court. Go to the mall, park your car, go inside and sit inside of a food court. Since you want to be near people so bad. It's not hard to be near large groups of people if you want to be. It's not hard, but what you don't do is you don't do that in the middle of a big empty parking lot. Like we were saying earlier, no wonder so many people out here getting snatched. You see a car, these people I feel like would go park next to a white van with tinted windows. Just a nondescript white utility van with tinted windows. You would go park next to the van because, oh, there's probably a lot of people in there. Yeah, there probably are a lot of people in there waiting for someone just like you to go, oh, I bet they're lonely in there. Let me go park next to them. A lot of people said that in the comments. So the chat says they're also the same people that use the restroom stall next to you when there's several open ones available. Lots of people said that in this comment thread. That is such a violation. Oh man. Like if you don't have a choice, if every single one of them is full and you got to go and one pops open, that's one thing. But when you walk in the bathroom and you can tell because you can see their feet that there's only one other person in there with you, you have all these options, you're going to post up next to me. Why? Why? And then it turns into this super weird waiting game. Like who's gonna leave first? And don't you dare leave at the same time as me. You better wait for me to exit the stall, wash my hands, get some paper towels, and exit the bathroom. Those are the rules. Those are the rules, guys. And from what I understand, it's even worse for men because men have urinals, right? It says, Imps here said it at the same time I did. So how much more awkward is that? So I don't know how many urinals are typically in a men's bathroom, but let's just say there's 3. And you're on urinal number 3. Some guy walks in and hops on number 2. And it's like, bruh, really? You had number 1. Number 1 was an option, which would have put one in between us, but you won't hop on number 2? Why? Like, why? Why are you doing that? How strange are you? About 8, really? There's 8 urinals in there? That's so weird. I didn't know it was that many. I thought there was like maybe 4 max. Anyway, this one said, I like people and I try to be near them, no mystery, but that still doesn't excuse you for parking next to a stranger in an open parking lot. Go to the food court if you want to be near people so bad. Go hang out with your friends if you want to be near people so bad. Here's another one in the needy and clingy category. It says, you look lonely and need company. That's why. So once again, this person is assuming that because you're in your car by yourself, you must be lonely and need company. But I wish I had written this back to them. I should have posed the question to them. Would you go sit next to someone that's kind of like on the street? An unhoused person? Do you do that regularly? Do you see an unhoused person sitting there with all their stuff, maybe in a shopping cart? Do you just get out of your car and go sit next to them and keep them company? I bet you don't. Which to me blows your excuse right out of the water. Do you go visit the elderly in nursing homes? I'm sure they wouldn't mind a visitor every now and then just to come keep them company. Do you go visit the orphanage and visit children who don't have families? Do you? I bet you don't. You don't. These are excuses. Yeah, they're projecting loneliness and grief. The chat says, wow, these people are deeply, deeply creepy. Yes, they are. And if you look right below it, it says, I do it because I feel safer next to someone else. I have abandonment issues. Well, how do you know I'm a safe person? How do you know I'm a safe person? Why would you assume that just because I'm alone, I'm a safe person? That's insane. And because you have abandonment issues, now it's my job to keep you company and make you feel better because you have abandonment issues. Do you see the inherent narcissism in that? I'll use you to keep myself safe or make myself feel safe. But you don't know me though. You don't know me. Chat says, if I wanted company, why would I park this far away from other cars? Exactly. Like a lot of people who really do want to socialize in public like that, they'll park their car and get out of it and like kind of be like sitting on the hood of it. You know what I mean? Like chit chatting with someone else. Like they'll kind of make it obvious that, hey, I'm open to social activity. Or a lot of people, for example, a lot of people actually get dogs. So when they walk them in the park, it helps them strike up conversations with other people. A lot of people do that. And a lot of people actually really enjoy that secondary benefit of having a dog. It helps strike up conversations with random people. You're walking, they're walking, they got their dog, you got yours. Oh, hey, your dog's so cute. Oh, hey, your dog's so cute. Oh, what's your name? Blah, 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 blah. They like that. A lot of people enjoy that. So if you want that type of random, spontaneous social interaction, there's other ways to go about it than parking next to a stranger in a big open parking lot. Okay? Okay. Let's keep going. We're still, oh no, now we're moving on to our next category. So we've covered the can't drive category. We just left needy and clingy. So now we're on to the safety of self. All right. So the following comments are all people who don't necessarily need you because they have abandonment issues or because you look lonely. It's because it makes them feel safer. So let's take a look. The chat says, now I see how so many people get effed up. It's not random. They have zero survival skills, literally zero. Approximately zero survival skills, because nothing would make me feel less safe than going and parking next to some random car and I can see that somebody's in it and I don't know who it is. I don't know what they're about. And I'm just going to go park next to them. Like it's perplexing and it's mind-boggling. But let's take a look. This one says, sorry, I just feel safer parked closer to other cars. I'm like, don't care. Don't care that it gets on your nerves. I just feel safer parked closer to other cars, which is really ridiculous. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. I mean, it's common sense, but I'm going to prove my point here in a minute. So this person feels safer parked closer to other cars, even though on more than one occasion, like when, occasionally cops or different safety groups will put out public service announcements and they'll tell you when you're approaching your car, look underneath it or look around the edge, like basically make sure no one's like hiding on the other side of your car. It's hard to hide. It's hard to hide on the other side of your car when your car is like solo by itself because you can really see. But if your car is surrounded by other vehicles, it makes it that much easier to hide, goofy. And then if you want to park next to another person and you get out, let's say you get out Well, they're right there and they just saw you get out of your car. So now they can just slip out of their car and be waiting for you on the other side because you're so goofy. You feel safer parked closer to other cars. I have never heard this kind of logic in my life, you guys. Never. I have never heard this kind of logic before in my life. And furthermore, like there have been stories of people who get snatched because they're parked next to another car. So they're parked next to a car. They're going to get in their car. The other person just opens their car door, snatches them, drags them into their car, slams the door, and drives off because it was so easy. It is harder to drag you into another car when there's some distance between you because now you have fighting distance. Do you understand? Now you can wrestle a little bit. You can tussle. You can try to drop them to their knees, like give them a real hard time. But if they're parked right there, and especially if there's more than one person in the other car, it makes it that much easier to snatch you up. Goofy. Let's keep going. This one says, when I go out in public, I always keep safety top of mind. I park close to other cars, under lights, and close to wherever I'm going when I'm alone. So there's nothing wrong with the other two, parking under lights and parking close to wherever you're going. But we're talking about, oh no, she didn't specify nighttime. I guess I assume nighttime because she said under lights. But nothing wrong with parking close to where you're going. Nothing wrong with parking under lights so people can see you from a distance, which could also work in the opposite direction, but whatever. I get you don't want to park in the dark. Who does, right? But parking close to other cars, how exactly is that going to keep you safe, honey? Because for the longest, at least in the 90s, they used to tell people to check their back seat when they got in the car to make sure nobody was hiding in the back seat. So why would you feel safer? Because if it's easier, if I have nefarious intentions and there's a whole bunch of cars around yours, when people see me over there, they're going to assume one of the other cars is mine or one of the cars is mine, which is an easy assumption to make. But if you're lurking around an individual car, people are either going to assume it's your car or it's not your car. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, this one parks close to other cars because it makes her feel safer. Let's do another safety one. This person said, I do that. I'm sorry. I just feel like if I park far away, someone will open my car or follow me and do something. So if they're parked right next to you, you don't think they can open your car or follow you or do something? Like what about, because you do realize other cars belong to other people, right? So what would make you think that being surrounded by more people would be more safe? I feel like if I park far away, someone will open my car or follow me and do something. Well, do you lock your doors, honey? Like, and then I put an arrow to the one underneath it because I wanted to remember to look at it. This one says, because I don't want to be by myself. And if it's a new place, I need to see what door you go in. Now, that could be taken one of two ways. Like, it sounds a little creepy. Like, it's really kind of giving creep vibes. Like, y'all are so worried about someone following you. But this person right underneath this other comment says, I need to, if it's a new place, I need to see what door you go in. Well, how do you know I'm going in the right door? You just gonna follow me because you just assume I'm going to the same place as you. This is disturbing, you guys. These are adults. Like these are adults. If it's new, I need to see what door I've never relied on an individual going into one door. If I'm going to like I don't know, a party or a club, which has been forever, but and I see a group of people going somewhere and they're dressed similarly to how I'm dressed, then I can make the safe assumption, okay, it must be that way. But you're parking all close to me, getting all up in my personal space, and then watching what door I go into, and you're creeped out. I'm creeped out. I'm creeped out. You're watching me to see where I go, but you're worried about somebody tackling you. Anyway, let's go. Here's another one that says, we feel safe when parked close to someone else. They feel safe. It makes them feel safe. But again, I would pose the question, why? How do you know the person you're parked next to is a safe person? How do you know they're paying attention? So it puts a lot of the onus of safety onto other people. Like we were talking about earlier, they have no survival skills. I'm not relying on other people to keep me safe as a primary like directive or response. My primary is myself. So I'm doing different things. I'm paying attention. I'm maintaining situational awareness. I'm looking around. I'm checking my surroundings. Now, if other people are around and they happen to see and they want to help, that's great. But I'm not going to rely on other people to keep me safe because I assume they're all unsafe. I think that's the safest assumption these days. Assume that they're not safe until proven otherwise. But it's like the it's just the most basic childlike logic I've ever heard. I'll park near this group of cars because they're people in cars and people in cars are safe. The end. Right. Chat sa- chat says there's that word feel again. Reality doesn't matter to these people. It's all about their feels. So if you were some sort of predator and you had knowledge like this, all you would really have to do is go park in a big empty parking lot and wait for one of these goofballs to come park right next to you because you already know how they're thinking. You know that you know that they're scared, number one. You know that they're parking next to you, which is socially inappropriate, but you know they're parking next to you because their theory is, I'll park next to you because it makes me feel safe. And you could be the most unsafe person in the world that they ever could have parked next to you. But because the logic is so broken, it's just like the perfect setup. It's kind of insane, but let's keep going. Okay, so now we have moved on to safety of property. So we've covered those that can't drive. We've covered the needy and the clingy, those who feel safe themselves parking super close to you in a giant empty parking lot. Now we're on to the safety of property. All right. So these are people who believe that their cars, not themselves per se, but their vehicles will be safer parking next to other cars. So let's take a look. This person said, I do it sometimes so that so the chances of my car getting vandalized reduces. But when I'm not going to be away from my car that long, I park away from people. Oh yeah, they're going to get progressively worse. So they're also each category is getting progressively worse in reasoning and logic and all things. So this person believes that if they park near a group of people, it is actually going to make them safer than parking off by themselves. So I would like to actually debunk that here. And I want to show you guys something. So let me pull it up really quick. Now, things may be different where you live, and I sincerely hope that they are. But this was actually in Atlanta, and this was July of 2022. And this happened at an apartment complex. And it says over 100 cars were broken into, including an Atlanta Police Department vehicle at Mariposa Lofts in Inman Park around 6 a.m. this morning. If you live there, you may want to go check on your car if you haven't already. And I could have sworn there was a video, but I couldn't find the video. I know there was a video, but I think maybe they took it down. I'm not sure. But as you can see here, each of these vehicles is actually parked next to other vehicles, and a police cruiser got broken into. The chat says, I think I just got secondhand embarrassment from that comment. Once again, we have here Exhibit B. As you can see, all or most of these vehicles are literally parked right next to other cars. I wonder what makes them think thieves have some sort of like moral compass or some sort of like reasoning or like rationale behind what they do. They're going for gold. They're just going to go from car to car. That's the video I saw. I just can't find it. Like it was just car after car after car. It was like shattered window, busted window, busted window, busted, just straight down the row. So you've now in situations like these, you generally don't have a choice but to park next to other people. So I'm not blaming these people. I'm not saying that these are the same types of people because in these parking garages, you really don't have a choice. Like you better park where you can because parking is typically so limited. I'm showing this to illustrate the point that parking next to other cars is not going to stop a thief. Like, what would make you think that? What would make you think that would stop them? What would ever give you that idea, honey? They broke into the Atlanta Police Department cruiser. They broke into the cop's car. So, what would ever make you think, oh, I'm good. I'm tucked in between two cars. This will keep my car safe? No, it won't. If anything, it makes it easier because they bust out the window over here and get whatever they need. Then they just turn to their right and bust yours out and get whatever they need from there and keep going. Like, are you serious? But this is the logic. This is why I'm showing this to you guys, because I need y'all to understand the type of logic these people are operating under and the type of logic that they are operating off of. I think that's very, very important. All right. So let's continue. I hope this doesn't start me over. Oh, it didn't. Yay. Okay. So let's continue. I do it sometimes so the chances of my car getting vandalized reduces. No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't, honey. They don't care. These thieves don't care. If they want to break into your car, they're going to. I know, I don't think I can. Chat says, can you even call it logic? I don't think so. Chat says, that's that magical Lucky Charms thinking, right? As if the cars are like sentient and be like, hey, stop, thief. Like I know they used to have talking cars or like talking alarm systems. Like, God, I forgot what it was called. It had a name though, but the car is not going to do anything but sit there and get itself broken into, and it's not going to help its buddy next to it either. But this is what they think. This is why we call this narc logic. All right. And this kind of plays into, even though we haven't reached that category yet, it almost plays into the same thing. Like, well, I'm going to use you to keep myself safe. So I'll park next to you because my thought process is your car can help keep my car safe, even though it's completely not true. Let's keep going. This person said, honestly, this annoys me when people do it too, but then I realize I do the same exact thing sometimes. Like someone said, it makes me feel safer if I'm going to be leaving my car next to another car for some reason. Like you're leaving your car, like you're literally leaving your car behind. The safest thing you can do is remove all the valuables like they tell you to and lock your doors. Although some people are now saying to leave your doors unlocked with the hopes that the thieves won't break your windows. I personally don't think that's a good idea because somebody could be in your car hiding. But a lot of people are either leaving their windows down now or leaving their doors unlocked to keep the glass from getting broken. And then they just take everything of value with them inside. But I just don't get it. If I'm leaving my car next to another car, it makes me feel better. Why? What if the other car moves? Like, ever think about that? Ever think about what if the car that I left my car next to feel safe leaves? Right. Not unless your car is a transformer or an Autobot. Correct. But and that just shows you how limited the thinking is as well. Like, oh, there's another car. I'm going to go park right next to it. So now I feel better because my car is sitting next to another car. Right. And then what if that car leaves 5 minutes later? Now your car is by itself again. What are you going to do? So let's continue. This one says, because no, now we're starting to creep into the narcissism. This one says, because I know you parked there to keep your car safe, so I know mine will be too. And these people are not kidding, you guys. They're not joking. They might have a lot of crying, laughing emojis behind their comments, but they're not joking. Because I know you parked there to keep your car safe, so I know mine will be too. How do you know that? Why do you assume either one of our cars are safe? Why would you assume I parked there to keep my car safe, per se? And why would you assume that just because you parked next to my car, your car will be safe? Like, all the assumptions built into this comment are really, truly stunning. Because I know you parked there to keep your car safe. So I know mine will be too. Okay, so what I think this person might be thinking is, like, when people get new cars or when people have expensive cars, sometimes they'll park like as far away as they can get, like off in a corner next to a wall or something, to try to reduce like dents and dings and stuff. But that still has nothing to do with your car. That's their car. So if they choose that parking space, unless you park on top of them, it has nothing to do with your car, you weirdo. Because I know you parked there to keep your car safe. So I know mine will be too. Right, as if the car has Secret Service security or something. Right, exactly. As if there's armed guards standing around somewhere watching that car. So you figured, well, if they're watching that car, they'll be watching my car too. Like, the the narcissism of it all. Like, I don't even know if I can call this narcissism or just flat out stupidity. I'm not sure which one it is. Or are they mutually exclusive or not? Like, wow. So my car might be safe, but is yours? Who knows? Like, it all depends on what the thief is deciding to do that day. They may decide to leave my car alone and go for yours. Like, being next to mine doesn't do anything, but the fact that you're using my car as a buffer or as a bumper, I find very annoying. Like, stand on your own. You see what I'm saying? We're not talking about groups of friends who go somewhere and all the friends park next to each other. So when they leave, they're all going out to the same place. We're talking about complete strangers here. And massive, giant open parking lots is what we're talking about. So let's keep going. Here's another one. This is what I heard. It's more difficult to steal a car if one is right next to it. Is it? Like, it is, from what I understand, all they really need to be able to do is get into the driver's seat. And as long as they can do that and they know how to jump the car or whatever they're doing these days to steal cars, well, that's all it takes, right? Like, what would the presence of another car do? Yeah, where did you hear that? So you're going to use my car as your car's security system. But do you think these people ever flip it and go, oh, there's a car parked all by itself. I'm going to park next to them to make it more difficult for someone to steal their car. Do you think they ever think that way? No, their thought process is essentially, I'm going to park next to you to make it more difficult to steal my car, not yours, my car. Right. This ain't what the Kia boys are saying. So, if you guys aren't aware, apparently there's been a rash of thefts involving Kias because apparently they're very easy to steal, using like very, very easy methods. And so people are getting their Kias stolen all the time because of that. And I still have not heard any cop say, make sure you park next to another car because it's harder to steal your car if you're next to a different car. Exactly. The chat says actually the other car would give the car thief some cover. Exactly. Like, oh my God. Like imagine you see like a one of those big trucks that are on those giant wheels. And so you're like, oh, that's a big old truck. I'm gonna go park right next to them to make it harder to steal my car. And the car thief is like, oh, perfect. Nobody will see me on the other side of that giant truck. Perfect. Perfect. Thanks. Like, really? That's really mind-blowing, actually. Let's keep going. Okay. So now we're moving into deeper narcissism. And I only have one example for this one, but this is the example that I told you about on the most recent live stream. So this category is if it happens to me, it is happening to you. And I put in parentheses, these are your true narcissists. And here we go. It says, I used to support your finding your own spot, but I realized that if anything should happen to my car, it's only fair it happens to someone else. So my insurance believes me. We are living amongst these people, you guys. We're living amongst these people. If anything should happen to my car, it's only fair it happens to someone else. So my insurance believes me. And I'm here to tell you that that's actually not how insurance works, except like chat says, only in natural disasters. So if you say a tornado came through, then chances are other cars on the street are going to have tornado damage. But other than that, all you really need is a police report, you know? And I'm sure people try to defraud insurance and break into their own cars or try to damage their own cars to get insurance claims. But believe it or not, insurance agents are actually trained to figure that kind of stuff out. They're not unaware that fraud exists. And how dare you use the reasoning and rationale and logic that if something happens to your car, it's only fair that it happens to someone else. Note the choice of words. This person didn't say, if something should happen to my car and it happens to someone else's, my insurance will likely believe me. That's not what they said. They said, if anything should happen to my car, it's only fair it happens to someone else. So my insurance believes me. Wow. Wow. So basically, if something's happening to me, then it needs to be happening to you as well. Which is basically saying if something happens to my car, I really want it to happen to someone else's too. Like they just can't take the L or just suffer the unfortunate circumstance on their own. They want to make sure someone else suffers with them. Absolutely. Chat says that's the person purposely giving everyone. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know. Capital H, capital I, capital V, because they got it. So their theory is, well, Since I caught it, it's only fair that someone else catches it so I don't have to die by myself. Which, it's not an automatic death sentence from what I understand these days, but you get my point. I caught it, so it's only fair that you catch it too. And this one actually really scares me because it makes me wonder how many other ways they apply this in their life. Like, what would you talk your friends into because you did something stupid and you're suffering the consequences? So you figure, well, if I'm going to jail, I'm taking at least one friend with me so I won't be lonely. If I get caught, you're going to get caught too, or you're going to get caught up with me. So at least I don't have to go through this by myself. You see what I'm saying? It makes me think of people who perhaps talk their friends or family members into different things, knowing the consequences of it are pretty severe. But because they've gone through it, they don't want to live in misery on their own. So they want someone else to come in with them. It's almost in a way like a crabs in a bucket mentality, in a way, but not quite, but in a way, it's kind of related. Yeah. And the comment itself has 3 likes, right? Like, so 3 other people agreed with this. It's only fair it happens to someone else. So my insurance believes me. So if you knew that this person, obviously you wouldn't be able to read their thoughts, but imagine that you could read their thoughts and they pull in and park next to you and they're like, okay, good. I'm glad that you're here because if something happens to my car, I want it to happen to yours too. It'd be like, girl, if you don't get away from me, and a lot of people, and I'm only highlighting these sick people, the majority of the people in this comment thread would say things like, I hate it when people do that. It's so annoying. Anytime they do that, I'll just pull off and go somewhere else, which is really wise considering that this is how some of these people think. Like, oh, okay, good. I found another car. So if anything happens to my car, it'll happen to theirs too. Like, you sick, you's a sick, you's a sick bastard. Me neither. Chat says, I'm trying, but I can't wrap my head around the selfishness of that attitude. Like, it is selfish to the core. Like, I just don't understand. Like, it's sick. Like, it's actually really, really sick. It's only fair it happens to someone else. Wow. So you can't handle things only happening to you. You have to ensure or at least try to make sure that it happens to someone else too. So here's a kind of silly example, but it's the only one that popped into my head. Let's say this person, I assume it's a woman because it says Miss Babooti. Miss Babooti and her friend, her bestie, go out on the town for a night, right? And let's say Miss Babooti accidentally sits down in some spilled wine, right? And she ruins her outfit because she didn't see it. It was dark. She sat down on the chair. Somebody had spilled some wine and it got on her clothes. She seems like the type of person who would get up and when her friend comes back, let's say from the bathroom or from the bar, she's like, "Oh, switch seats with me. Switch seats with me." And her friend is like, okay. And so she just plops down and it's like, oh my God, I got wine on myself. And Miss Babooti would be like, oh yeah, I think I sat on that too because I got some wine on me too. So in other words, if I ruined my outfit, oh, you're going to ruin your outfit too. I'm not going to be the only one walking around with wine stains on my clothes. So now we both have wine stains. So now we both can suffer the embarrassment or to suffer the aggravation of having sat in wine. Do you see what I'm saying? I know it's a weird example, but it's the only one I could think of as a good analogy. Like something happened to you, it was uniquely personal to you, and instead of you just dealing with it, it's like, oh no, someone else has to go through this with me. Hey friend, come sit right here. Oh, you got wine on you? I think I got that same wine on me too, cuz look. And it's only then that her friend realizes, oh my God, you knew that was here. And you just wanted to make sure you weren't the only one walking around with a wine stain on your clothes. You you's a sick bastard. You's a sick puppy, huh? You're not well. But this is the one I was talking about in that live stream. It's only fair it happens to someone else, so my insurance believes me. So now we're moving into the next level or the next layer. And these are the people who are now finally just starting to flat out confess that they essentially do it just to be jerks, just to be assholes. They do it. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say to you is the first couple of categories that we listed, those were all very light, fluffy excuses for these people who I feel like are just telling the flat out truth of why they do it. And we know this. And that's how they ended up on this channel under narc logic. So, let's go. So, again, this category is I'll do whatever I want to you. It says they do it because they feel like it. It's their God given right to pick any spot they want. Hold on. It's their God given right to pick any spot they want you doing on the parking lot. If you don't, okay. All right. I think I know what they're trying to say. It says they do it because they feel like it. It's their God given right to pick any spot they want. What are you doing in the parking lot? If you don't like it, then remove yourself. Now, I'm having to assume that because it's their God-given right to pick any spot they want. What are you doing in the parking lot? If you don't like it, then remove yourself. And we were just talking about this in the last live stream. Isn't that what they always say? If you don't like it, leave. Oh, you don't like it? Leave. It's like, but I was kind of here first. And let's keep in mind, we're talking about a parking lot like this. No, they don't proofread. Good Lord. I really think that's half their problem. But that is a theory I'm working on that's so elaborate. It's going to take me a long time to put it together. But I really think their lack of fluency really impacts their ability to think. But anyway, we're talking about a parking lot like this, where I'm the white car in the upper right-hand corner, just over there minding my own business. And you have literally probably like 100 spaces to choose from, and you choose to come crowd me. Why? Yeah, it's not my parking lot. Yeah, it's free parking. It's a public space. But why, though? And you don't realize how weird that is or how unsafe that could be. But as this well-written human being said, they do it because they feel like it. It's their God-given right to pick any spot they want you doing on the parking lot. If you don't like it, then remove yourself. But I was here first, though. And you infringed upon me. I didn't infringe upon you. You came over here. So let's go on because there's quite a few examples for this category. This one just quite simply says, they do it because you don't own the parking lot. So in other words, I'm going to come and get in your personal space because you don't own the parking lot, even though I have not millions, but at least a couple hundred choices. I have all kinds of choices. None of this is prime real estate. None of it. And I've got several choices. But I want to come park next to you because you don't own the parking lot. And that's kind of the nasty spite that you often see come out of narcissists. They're very good at finding situations where they are technically not in the wrong, or they're technically not breaking the law, but they're breaking some sort of social code or ethical code or like moral code. But it's almost like as long as they're within the boundaries of the law, they will push it right up to that limit because that's how they think. Well, you don't own this parking lot. I can park wherever I want. It's a parking space, isn't it? Well, sure, it's a parking space, but Social norms would at least put one car length in between us, which would still be annoying because you're still right there. But you want to park right next to me. So they're very, very, very good at pushing those boundaries and kind of trying to get you to snap, really, and trying to get you to say something, trying to trigger you basically, because they know that that's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. But they do it anyway. And they have all the excuses in the world for why they do it. But now they're starting to get real. So now we're in the lower categories because you don't own the parking lot. Let's see what else they had to say for this one. Here's another one. They said, "Fool, you don't own the freaking parking lot. Maybe you should see a psychiatrist about your delusions of grandeur." And it has absolutely nothing to do with owning the parking lot. It has everything to do with reading the room, recognizing the situation, recognizing how you might be making someone else uncomfortable, especially when they're eating. Like, I don't like it when strangers are looking at me when I eat. I think that's weird. And I'll only do it when I really have to. Like if you're in a restaurant or something, there's all these people around. Okay, everyone's eating. Who cares? But if I'm ducked off in a corner eating, and now you like all up in my face watching me chew and take bites and take my drink, like, what are you doing? Go away. And the truth is, they may not be paying any attention to you at all, but that's kind of not the point. Because once I'm through eating, I'm going to be doing things like wiping my mouth. I'm going to pull my mirror down, kind of touch my face up a little bit, maybe reapply my lip gloss. Like I'm doing things over here. I'm doing things over here. I wish they made windows where like you could turn tint off and on. So like it for situations just like this. So you're parked, you're ducked off in a corner, someone comes and parks uncomfortably close to you, you can just turn your tint on, and then even though they're sitting right there, they can't see you, but you can see them. I bet they wouldn't like that. Do you think they would like that? Do you think they prefer to be able to see you? Or do you think they would prefer to not be able to see you? So put a one in the chat if you think that they prefer to be able to see you. So in other words, clear windows. Put a two in the chat if you think that they would prefer to not see you, meaning tinted windows. I'm curious what you guys think. So if they had cars where you could turn the tint off and on, and you could turn your tint on automatically, put a one in the chat if you think that these people actually prefer to be able to see you, or put a two in the chat if you think that they would be okay with window tint. I'm seeing one so far. Oh, and I did a video on this. Narcissists have to see you. It was one of my most popular videos. It hit like 100,000 views in like 3 or 4 days. Narcissists have to see you. I'll link that. Yep, I'm seeing all ones. They wouldn't like that. If you put that window tint on them, it would make them so mad. I feel like they would drive off. And that's kind of proving my whole point here. They're not doing it for noble reasons. They're not doing it because you don't own the parking lot. They're not doing it to help themselves park because they can't park in a straight line, even though they're adults with a driver's license. They're doing it because they want to make you uncomfortable and they want to be able to see you and be all up in your shit. That's why they're doing it. Ones, and more ones. Chat said it's the creepiest, most obvious answer. One, right. I bet you if you turned on that automatic tint, it would make them so furious, they would drive off. Because they want to be able to kind of see you and be all up in your grill and see what you're doing. And ugh, this is why it gets on people's nerves, because we know that that's why you're doing it. Anyway, let's move on. So this chick had a lot to say. So she left two different comments. So I'm going to read the first one, then the second one. The first one says, "I've done this. To me, it makes no difference, nor do I think about the other person or anything. It's like a non issue that I never realized existed. And even after reading all these comments, I still don't see how this upsets people and probably never will get it. It's like being mad at a piece of paper just sounds ridiculous and added drama. Some people are just very sensitive. I suppose because they have no logical reason to be upset in public spaces. So, this one's rationale in her first comment is, you can't get mad at me for parking next to you in a situation like this, parking right next to you because it's a public space and I'm not thinking about you anyway. And why do you even care? You're too sensitive. We talked about that yesterday. Well, not yesterday, day before yesterday, too. How they start to accuse you of being all touchy and sensitive. So who cares that out of 200 spaces, I chose the space right next to you as a public space? Why are you being all sensitive? But then she continues and says, probably because it's a public space. And since your name is not on any particular spot, people can park wherever they want, regardless of you being there or not. It's a petty issue that is nothing to get upset over. Nobody is actually thinking about you like that. And I'm sure the other people don't care about you like you think they do when you're the one obsessing over another person. Yeah, she hit most of the narc buzz phrases. And she told on herself in a way where she kept saying, nobody's thinking about you like that. Yeah, we can tell you're not thinking about other people. That's your problem. You don't think about other people. You only think about yourself. You only think about yourself. Because you know what? You know, one of the main reasons I try not to park next to other people, because I'm like, when they back out or get into their car, I don't want my car to be that close to them because people fling their doors open. And even when they don't fling them, sometimes the door just gets away from you. So you open it and then it opens itself up to the max. So I don't want my car next to yours when that's happening. And as much as I can avoid it, I do. And guess what, guys? And vice versa. The doors of my car are like unnaturally strong. And I know that. So when I get out of the car, sometimes my knee will bump the driver's side door and it just opens itself all the way up. And hopefully I'm in a parking space where there's enough room for that to happen and it not hit the car next to it. But typically when I'm getting out of my car, I get out of my car very carefully because I know that I have very wild doors. So I try not to park right next to people so I can let my doors be as wild as they want to be because I know that they can get out of control very quick. So it goes both ways. I don't want my car getting dinged up by yours, and I also don't want to ding your car. But here, can you imagine what type of person this girl is in real life? Nobody's actually thinking about you like that, and I'm sure the other people don't care about you like you think they do when you're the one obsessing over another person. It's like it's like, wow. It's like, but still, but why would you do that? It still doesn't. And also, she still didn't answer the question. All her only answer was probably because it's a public space. And since your name is not on any particular spot, people can park wherever they want, regardless of you being there or not. She doesn't understand how inherently weird it is to park next to someone in a situation like this. We're not talking about a full parking lot. We're not talking about the mall when it's real busy, peak busy, like the busy seasons, like Christmas. And you're riding up and down the aisles looking for somewhere to park. And then finally somebody pulls out and you pull into that parking space in between two cars and one car in front of you also. We're not talking about that, sweetie. We're not talking about the grocery store when it's real busy and people are circling the parking lot looking for somewhere to park and they finally get a space and pull in next to somebody and somebody's sitting in their car. We're not talking about that. I do that all the time. At the grocery store, finally get a space, pull in, somebody might be sitting in their car right next to me. But guess what? I get out of my car, close it, lock it, go in the grocery store, get what I need to get, come out, load my car up and leave. it's a different situation, and she's being willfully obtuse and purposely ignoring the point because she's an asshole. She's a narcissist. It's like, I'll do it because I want to. It's like, but people don't like that though. And it's like she literally just does not care. So let us continue. I think there might be one or two more in this category. No, now we're on to imps and demons. So we've reached the final category. And these are the ones who just have nothing to hide about their intentions. And I think they're important. And I'm grateful that they have the urge to tell on themselves the way that they do, because it helps us learn. Okay. So let's take a look. Again, the question being posed is, why do people park next to people, right next to them, in big, empty, open parking lots? The answer, this imp said, I like to do it to annoy people. Why? Because what you gonna do about it? You see what I'm saying? Because, as we were saying earlier, it's technically not illegal. It's not illegal. Public parking lot, empty parking space, they're not assigned. They're not technically doing anything against the law. You're breaking social code. Because I guarantee you this much, you guys, when these people want to park somewhere by themselves, I guarantee you they get annoyed if somebody comes and parks right next to them. They want to be able to do it to you. And as this little imp said, I like to do it to annoy people. Why? Because what you gonna do about it? You see what I'm saying? Now they're just telling the truth. Now they're just telling on themselves and telling who they really are. You understand? So let's take a look at the next one. This one says, now that I realize this actually gets people so uptight, I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to start doing it. So, your takeaway from that post, first of all, you didn't know that that bothered people, which how you could not know that tells me a lot about yourself and who you are and how you operate in the world. But this person said, "Wow, now that I realize this actually gets people so uptight, I'm going to start doing it." And see, that's how a lot of people end up getting hurt, you guys. I'm not kidding. Because there are people who will open their window and be like, really, bruh? I'm over here chilling. You're going to come park right next to me. Or some people will open their window and be like, did you need something? Can I help you? And then when you snap back with, it's a public parking lot, I can park wherever I want, you may not get the reaction that you were seeking. Because how do you really know who you're parked next to? You don't. How do you know? You know, there's gangs everywhere, right? How do you know you haven't parked next to some gang member's car who was waiting on a specific person to show up or something? And here you go, just parking there because you feel like I can park wherever I want to. And they were there for a totally different reason. But since you wanted to involve yourself, well, now you're involved. You just don't know. Like, how do you know? How do you, like, where do you get off purposely making other people uncomfortable? It's one thing for someone to be complaining in a busy, full parking lot where there's really no other choice. Like, hey man, there's no other spots out here. I'm sorry, my bad, but I got to park here. There's nowhere else to park. We're talking about a place where there's multiple options. And none of them are better than the other. I think that's very important. So none of them are like prime real estate parking. Every spot is as good as the next one. You see what I'm saying? Like, and like, how do you know? Like, how do you just don't know, and you're gonna go out here messing with people on purpose? You're gonna FAFO. You're gonna become a student of the school of FAFO. FAFO. And then you'll be on the internet crying about how somebody assaulted you in a parking lot for parking uncomfortably close to them and catching an attitude when they were like, "Did you need something? Can I help you?" "I'll park here because I want to." Okay. And whatever comes next, I think you should be prepared for, Petrie Doug. Okay? So let's continue. Let's continue. And I think this might be the last one. Let me see. Yep, this is the last one. A true demon. Why do you park next to people in big empty parking lots? This person responded, I do it to make others feel uncomfortable. And there you have it, folks. So we went all the way from I do it because I need other cars to help me park straight to I do it to make others feel uncomfortable. And this person's name is Truth Goddess One. So I have to assume that they're telling the truth. I do it to make others feel uncomfortable. And there you go. There's your answer. So the next time you're sitting alone on your lunch break or doing whatever in a parking lot and you've picked an area you feel like, okay, nobody will come over here. I'm kind of out of the way. And you're doing whatever. Like sometimes I take a nap in my car on my lunch break. I do. A lot of people do. I see a lot of people in that same park taking naps in their car. And I'm like, look at all the corporate slaves, including me. We drive off campus to a parking lot attached to a park and take naps. Like, how sad. That's so sad. But a lot of people do it. And I don't want to wake up and you're parked right next to me. That's going to make me feel some kind of way. Like, what are you doing? Like, have you been sitting there the whole time? You've been watching me sleep? You're weird. So you do it to make others feel uncomfortable. And no emoji, no laughing. Oh, and there's 3 likes on this one too. That's really disturbing. So that means a lot of people reading this thread, out of all the people that read it, at least 3 liked it. It means they do the same thing. Like they see somebody sitting off by themselves, so they go purposely park right next to them because they know it makes people feel uncomfortable. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's very unsafe for you because I have no choice but to assume either something is wrong with you or you have ill intentions. Because another thing that I'm trying to do when I kind of park off by myself is I'm trying to keep my car like free and clear. So if I need to take off really quick, I can. You understand what I'm saying? If I need to pull off to the left, pull off to the right, pull straight, I try not to be in situations where I have to reverse. I need to be able to put it in drive and go. So I'm starting to feel like maybe you're trying to box me in. You see what I'm saying? You're boxing me. Why are you trying to box me in? This is how I think. Yeah, why are you all in my grill? Exactly. So it's also it's a navigational issue. Yeah, I'm over here by myself. So if I need to take off really quick, I can versus having to back out real slow, make sure I don't hit the car to the left, make sure I don't hit the car to the right, and make sure I don't hit the car parked kind of behind me in the next aisle over. Now I'm over here in the wide open. So if I need to take off, I can take off. That's another reason I do it. So now you're over here kind of interfering with my ability to flee quickly if I need to. See, now you're going to trigger my fight or flight response. And I don't think that's smart. Chat says those are the 3 that took responsibility. Surely there's more because narcs love to tell on themselves. Absolutely they do. But the way that this person just said it so matter of factly, no emojis, no LOL, nothing. I do it to make others feel uncomfortable. Yep, and that's why you ended up in the imp and demon category. Hmm. So, as a quick recap, we had the people who claim they do it because they can't drive. We have the people who are needy and clingy and say that you look lonely, so they're just coming basically to keep you company, or admitting that they feel lonely themselves and like to be around people, so they just go park near somebody else as if the person asked them to. We got the people who feel safer parking next to others. We have the people who believe their car is safer parked near other cars, or so they claim. We moved on to the arrogant narcs who were just like, well, I can do whatever I want. You don't own the parking lot. Then we moved on to the narc who said, if it happens to me, it's basically only fair that it happens to you. So my insurance will believe me, of course. It's about the insurance. And then finally, we got to the true imps and demons who just flat out confess that, oh, wow, this bothers people. Well, I'll make sure that I do it now because I know that it gets you uptight. And the final demon who just flat out said it. I do it because it makes others feel uncomfortable. What a weirdo. What else does this person do in their day to day lives that makes others feel uncomfortable? And they do it because it makes others feel uncomfortable. So, the biggest takeaway from this live stream that I want you to take away, among other things, is there is always a reason for a narcissist's behavior. It might be broken logic, it might be demon logic, but there is a logic there, and I want you to know that. And I think that's why it's so perplexing to us because we don't think like this. So when we see it laid out so plainly, it's really stunning and kind of scary and really creepy because it's like, wow, that's really how your mind works. You park next to me just in case something happens to your car. It'll happen to mine too, because in your mind, that's only fair. Wow. Or the most honest one of all who just said, I do it because it makes others feel uncomfortable. Like we would never think that. And I think we often make excuses for people and try to rationalize it based on based on a sound mind and a sane mind. You're trying to figure them out from the standpoint of sanity. And almost all of these are completely insane reactions, responses, and reasons. So I want y'all to remember that as you're trying to figure out why does he or she do that, trust me, there's a reason. And trust me, it's nothing that you could have ever thought up yourself. You could never imagine the reason why, is what I want you guys to take away. But I want you to always try to figure it out because once you figure it out, it makes them easier to kind of manage. If you know that nut just came and parked next to you because they're trying to make you feel uncomfortable, or you know that nut came and parked right next to you in a big empty parking lot because they want something to happen to your car too, just in case something happens to theirs. Now you know why. Now you're in a stronger position to take some kind of action, like pulling off and leaving. Like you're not going to use me as your buffer. I'm not your security guard. I'm not your safety blanket. And you're not going to make me uncomfortable. So there's that. So at least for this situation, you know why these people are doing this stuff. And I'm so glad I found this video. It is linked in the description box for you. And I hope you'll check it out. And I do hope that you'll go read some of the comments yourself. You'll see some of these comments in that comment thread because I pulled it directly from there. So you'll see it. But with that, I've enjoyed this live stream, you guys. It is good to be back. Not sure when I'll be back again, but I will try to bring you something again very soon, maybe this weekend, hopefully. But something soon because I did miss you guys and I have missed this a lot. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourselves and just be safe and be careful out here because you see how these people think. You see they ain't right in the head. You see that. So now you know, and go tell a friend so they'll know, okay? And I will be reading all your comments once the live stream processes and uploads to YouTube, okay? But with that, take care, enjoy the rest of your week, and be safe out there, you guys, okay? Bye.